Hi, my name is Tammy Trapierre Bentley, and I am your co-host for On Second Thought with William Wagner. And I am here at the edge of Zion National Park with the beautiful view of Canyon Overlook.
Welcome to On Second Thought. I'm William Wagner, your host. We got a great show for you tonight. With me today, here in the studio, is Charlie Sprinkle. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Charlie, do you have a driver's license?
No, sir, I haven't. I don't drive commercially.
You don't drive commercially, I see. So you don't need a driver's license?
If you're not being paid, there's no need for a driver's license.
So if I was getting paid to haul goods and services, or I was a taxi driver,
you would have to have a driver's license. That's commerce.
That's commerce. But you don't drive in commerce, so you haven't had a driver's license for how many years, Charlie?
37 years.
What happens, Charlie, when the police pull you over and they think you're speeding or you didn't signal?
Well, now they just shake their finger at me or tell me to have a nice day.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
Well, let's see. As a cop, I pull up, I say, may I see your driver's license, please?
I don't have one.
Why don't you have one? You're driving a car.
I don't want one, and I'm not driving. I'm traveling.
I see. Well, what if I just take you to jail?
Fine with me. But we'll be hooked to hip. We'll be hooked at the hip for the next 5 years in federal court.
In federal court. So you're going to sue me, the police officer, if I take you to jail because you don't have a driver's license?
Yes, sir.
I think the judge will rule in my favor.
I don't think so.
Oh, so that's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
And you had one of those cases, Charlie, didn't you?
I filed suit in 1975 against 16 state officials, including Governor Reagan and all of their wives.
And all of their wives?
Yes, sir. When the officer pulls his red lights on you, he's declaring an emergency. That's a felony when there is no emergency. So he's already violated his job oath of office when he turns his red lights on to stop you. And then in my case, if he interferes with my right to travel, he's violating the Constitution of the United States.
Wow.
He becomes an imposter in the office of, he becomes imposter in his office. And therefore he's taking his wages under false pretenses, and that's fraud.
And you've taken people to court?
Yes, sir.
Did Mrs. Reagan like being served?
Yes, sir. We served her as she was backing out of her driveway in the limousine.
Did she like it when they served her?
She was having a hissy fit. As a matter of fact, the wives didn't like being charged with fraud for something their husbands had done.
So why did you name Mrs. Reagan? I mean, even Reagan didn't pull you over, and he didn't hire the CHP officer.
I wrote Mr. Reagan a letter and requesting him to protect me from the conspiracy to violate my rights.
And did he protect you?
No, he refused in writing.
Oh.
So he violated his oath of office. He became an imposter in the governor's office, and his wife was same as driving a getaway car for a bank robber. She's accessory after the fact.
Wow.
And they tried to get that dismissed in federal court 3 different times, and they failed all 3 times. And then all they could do then was make a deal.
Wow. Well, I got to take my hat off to you, Charlie, because I don't think I've talked to anybody that's ever sued a governor and his wife and won. And did they pay you money, or what? How did that resolve?
But they couldn't get the case dismissed out of the federal court, so they sent a black limousine down to my house. 2 guys got out of the back doors of the car, dressed in very dark suits and sunglasses, and came to my door. Of course, I had a rifle set up at the door because I was expecting to be assassinated over this deal.
Yeah.
I was only 35 years old, and I was the only one in California at the time fighting a driver's license. So I expected to be found face down in a ditch someplace, and so I was well armed. Anyway, they came to the door, and they said, "Mr. Sprinkle, we can assure you that you will have full run of the road if you do not pursue the lawsuit any further. I said, fine. I'll take that under advisement, and we'll see what happens. And after another few words, they decided to get in their car and go home, or wherever they came from. So I immediately went out and got into my yellow sports car and went out onto the highway and found me a highway patrolman, and they was doing 65 at the time. It was the speed limit. And I cranked my little yellow car up to about 90 miles an hour, went by them blowing my air horns. And, of course, they pursued me immediately.
Yeah, I would expect that, Charlie, yeah.
And I pulled off the side of the road, and I said, what can I do for you? And he says, what are you doing? I said, I was doing about 90. He said, what's your name? You got a driver's license? No. Oh. What's your name? My name's Charlie Sprinkle. Well, Mr. Sprinkle, we just stopped to see if we could be of any assistance to you. I said, well, no, I think I can get along all right by myself. And he said, well, have a nice day. So I left him in a cloud of dust.
Oh, boy. And they didn't say anything about the fact you admitted you were doing 90 in a 65 zone?
No.
They didn't say a word about it.
Yeah, I've been told I'd be left alone if I didn't pursue the suit.
So someone put the word out, and you let the Reagans off the suit, and you're free to go.
So I just did not pursue it. I can reinstitute it tomorrow if I want to. Refile for $25.
How long were you in federal court before this little incident took place?
About 4 or 5 months. It took a month for him to default, and I went to the judge. He asked for a default judgment. But at that time, I hadn't spent enough time in the law library, and I didn't know about defaults. Now, when the judge told me I had to have a default wrote up for him to sign, I said, oh, I'll be back in a little while. I'm in L.A. with no driver's license, no form of identification at all. And in order to get a default done, you have to have it notarized and certified, and I had to have some kind of identification. But down in L.A., that's pretty easy to get done without identification. So in the space of 3 hours, I was back in his office with the default. In the meantime, he had called somebody in Sacramento, and they had called a law firm in L.A. and typed up some kind of paper and got in line ahead of me at the court clerk's office and filed an answer, what they called an answer. So by the time I got back to the judge, he says, they filed an answer ahead of you, so you don't get the default. I said, okay, well, have to take them to court, and off I went. We came back. The lawyer they had sent down to L.A. said they was working for a private company. The officials could not use government lawyers because I filed a suit against them in their personal capacity and not their office.
Oh.
So it cost them all about 10 grand to get themselves and their wives an attorney to come down to the L.A. and try to get them out of the suit. And the lawyer that they sent down was a young fellow, just out of law school, and just got his bar degree and went to work for a big firm with all the grand visions of being promoted up through the ranks. And they told him, he said, you shouldn't have any trouble with this backhoe operator. He's only 35 and he's dropped out of the 9th grade. I mean, you shouldn't have any trouble getting him out of federal court, no problem. Well, on his 3rd trip, he was crying big crocodile tears because the judge found against him. And they had sent a special judge in for my case. So when the judge had finished with my case, he stood up and started shaking his papers up and getting them all ready to go. And the attorney for the judges stood up and way over on the other side of the courtroom, and the place was full of lawyers and plaintiffs and defendants, whatever they were. And the lawyer hollers across the courtroom, Mr. Sprinkle, he says, I would like to speak to you after the judge has left the courtroom. I said, why, Mr. Leicester, what is it you have to say to me that you don't want the judge to hear?